Welcome to The Pestle, reviewing and breaking down movies to look for insights into the movie-making process. Hosted by Nightmares. They attack when you can't see it coming. Sneaky buggers. Now, let's dim the lights and not fall asleep.
Welcome, everybody, to The Pestle. Today's show is brought to you by Hawkins National Laboratory. We just research things, nothing too crazy, just normal everyday stuff. Not sure why we're even advertising. Ignore us at Hawkins National Laboratory. Welcome everybody to The Pestle. I am Wes.
And I am Todd.
And we're filmmakers. We dive into and now analyze films based on what we think is happening within the film, whether that's story, writing, cinematography, any acting performance, any number of things. A lot goes into every single film, and we try to bring a little bit of what we've learned along the way into dissecting films. Yeah. And so without further ado, we're on a mission today. We just finished recording The Northman, and we're doubling up coincidentally with another movie about doubles. What are we doing today?
Today, we're covering the film Duel, D-U-A-L, which is out in theaters as we speak, but might possibly be streaming soon. So if you haven't seen the film, please pause this and go watch it because we're going to spoil a ton of stuff.
Yeah. We'll look at a couple of things and discuss a few more. I want to look at a little bit of the story and writing, especially the tone of the film, and also the quote-unquote boring finale that they set up in the film. And so, yeah, we'll look at that and other such stuff and things and stuff.
And a quick synopsis of the film. A woman opts for a cloning procedure after she receives a terminal diagnosis. But when she recovers her attempts to have her clone decommissioned fail, leading to a court-mandated duel to the death. Did I read that wrong?
No, that's weird. Just a weird framed sentence. I did not write that one.
Okay.
But when she recovers, her attempts to have her clone decommissioned.
Oh, I need a comma.
That's what it is, yeah.
Okay.
That'll work.
Can I read that again?
Sure.
Okay. Quick synopsis of the film. The first time I've read it. A woman opts for a cloning procedure after she receives a terminal diagnosis, but when she recovers, her attempts to have her clone decommissioned fail, leading to a court-mandated duel to the death. Written and directed by Riley Stearns. Cinematography by Michael Ragen. Starring Karen Gillan as Sarah, Aaron Paul as Trent, Beulah Koale as Peter, and Maija Paunio as Sarah's mother.
Hi. I'm currently dying, and I would like to schedule a consultation.
Sarah.
Hi there.
I'm sure you're familiar with the process. When you know you're going to die, you can have yourself cloned.
You have very clean skin. I like your shirt.
But life has thrown you a curveball. You're not dying anymore.
The duel to the death will be in approximately 1 year.
Wait, did you say duel to the death?
You can't have two of you walking around forever. That'd be ridiculous.
Do you want to live?
Yes?
I don't believe you.
I may be a size smaller than you. I'm going to kill her.
A properly trained human body is a weapon.
You're pretending to be me while I'm still alive?
Even if I can't be with her, I don't want to be with you.
Always use the gun if it's an option.
Stab. I find guns to be boring and overused.
If it's the difference between life and death, it's okay to be boring.
Your mental tricks aren't going to work. Taking over my life was the plan, not stealing it. This is my life. She's not going to take it from me. What are my chances?
0. Nothing is ever absolutely certain, though this most certainly is.
I really value your friendship. I'll miss that when you die. Speaking of which, any updates?
So,
I got to watch that.
yeah, I was like, you know what? Let me make sure he gets a chance. Am I back? Am I back on?
Yes, you're
Okay.
right.
So, yeah, I didn't watch a preview walking into this. I keep my eye on the trades, and so like I think Deadline has an easy way to kind of keep your eye on things that have been acquired. So, hey, guess what? You know, Netflix just acquired this documentary or whatever, and so they're constantly putting out information about things that have been acquired and what their schedule is in terms of, you know, this is going to be released in theaters or this is going to direct streaming. So they kind of give you some info on that. And whenever I saw Karen Gillan and Aaron Paul in a film, I was like, oh, that's interesting. And I opened up that trade and that story, and it was like, oh, it's a sci-fi about a duel between a clone and her original. And that was it. That was all I knew about this walking into it. And so in my head, I went in expecting kind of Alex Garland Ex Machina, drama. And of course, that was not what this was at all. And so I was like very surprised. And before I get to my reaction to it, I'm dying to know, like, I assume you had the same experience, like, because I told you what this movie was about. And I assume you didn't catch a trailer.
No.
And so I'm curious, I'm dying to know, like, what did you think of this thing, man?
Man, okay. So let me just first off, really quickly, I just, I could. There was only one or two theaters in the entire San Francisco area that were playing this, and so I had to drive into the city to see it, and that was super stressful. It's very hard driving in San Francisco for me. But so I was already a little bit flustered, and so I sit down, and the first thing I thought, because and it took me over an hour to get there. And the first thing I thought was, this better be good. And so the first thing that I felt when the acting started was not the first, the first thing that we see is the duel between the guy and stuff, but the actual acting of like Karen Gillan was, oh, this is going to be bad. Oh, this is going to be real bad because of the way that they acted, that everyone acted.
Yeah.
But then when I realized, oh, that's just how this world people are, I started like really sitting in with it and like kind of like knowing how a response should be and understanding it a lot more. And I loved this movie.
Oh, nice.
I loved it. Because of that. Yeah. Only because of that.
Yeah.
If it was because okay, this whole like Hunger Games shit where you got to fight people to the death. I hate that. I think honestly that's the worst part of this movie is that, because it's just, I don't know. I just feel like it's overdone. It's been done for so long. Since Hunger Games, there's been so many movies where this happens. And so it's really annoying, and I feel like it's a cop out in most cases. But with this, because everybody is acting so strangely and so very direct and maybe indirect by being direct in ways, like the doctor is very much like that, it was actually fun throughout. And I was trying to understand while I was watching, I was like, why would they do that? Like, why would Riley Stearns create this world where people act like this? And the thing that I got from it, and I don't know if this is right or not, is that they're saying and doing things that we don't actually say and do, but we might think, right? So like, for example, when the mother loves the clone more, right? She's very direct in that, this is now my daughter, and why are you here? I thought you were supposed to die a long time ago. A mother would never probably say that, but like there might be a piece that the mother is like, oh, this is a better version of my daughter because she answers when I call, and she comes to visit me, and things that my actual daughter doesn't do. You know, it's like these wishful things. The husband, right, loves the clone more because the clone is a size smaller and has better skin and takes care of herself and whatever, has better tasting clothes and like does things for him that she won't. And so there's these things that we don't expressly say, but they actually say them. And so it was like this whole other world, right? And I expected the clone aspect to be a much bigger, you know, like cloning aspect to be a much bigger part of the story. And it wasn't. It was like, oh, it'll take about an hour. It's like, and we have a shot of her waiting in the waiting room, and then she's back in, and there's the clone, and it's exactly like her, and walking around and talking and whatever. And it was very fanatical because in no way, shape, or form would this ever exist in today. It, like, you know, in our world, right? There's no way. But at least, you know, you would imagine. But it was just, okay, what if? And that's the question. What if it did? What would happen? And I loved the interaction with Sarah and Trent, and the whole insinuation that Trent has of when she asked for a free month of training, he said, "Oh, we can make some arrangements." You know,
mutually beneficial.
Right. I loved the insinuation, and that we find out what the insinuation meant and had nothing to do with what we thought it might mean. I enjoyed the shit out of that. And I loved that she was looking up porn when her husband calls her and he's away, and that she's masturbating, like all of these things that, like,
and it's a weird porn too. It's like they're in it's a pool orgy in the backyard of a confirmed haunted house.
Very specific. Very specific. And that's it through the whole movie. Everything's oddly specific. But the ending, it comes down to this whole notion of the grass is always greener until you have that yard and you're in that yard. And all of a sudden you realize, oh, that yard is just as fucked up as the yard I left. And I've put myself here, and I made the decisions that put myself here. And it leads back to this one little thread, and you're trying to find out what is the thread. You don't know what the damn thread is almost the whole movie. I mean, you kind of maybe do, but then later on you feel it, because the clone is not really super happy towards the end, and she's starting to understand maybe she wants her own life and doesn't like the life that she's taken over. And, you know, but she also doesn't want to die at the same time. And so she has to make it was, yeah. And so, anyway, I really enjoyed it. And the more I thought about it, the more I enjoyed it. And honestly, I could watch it again and probably enjoy it a lot more. I thought that the casting of Aaron Paul was perfect in that role. I thought he killed it. And their relationship throughout the whole thing was wonderful, wonderfully platonic, and because if it would have just felt weird if things had got physical between them. It would have felt like it's not really what I feel like this world is about necessarily. I feel like it's something else, and they gave us the something else. It was cool.
Yeah, I largely had the same experience. Like, I walked in again expecting something very dramatic and, you know, cerebral, and it really wasn't. But they set it up so well, right? Because they open on that duel, and it's brutal. Like, you have spectators sitting around applauding, and you're on a football field, and it feels like you're watching a football game, right? You have this hard lighting and people golf clapping, and this guy gets shot in the chest with an arrow, and you're just like, did that get his heart? Is he about to kill over? And you're just assuming this guy's about to, you know, die. And, you know, the music, everything's very intense. The lighting, all of it is really serious. The tone and it ends with this violent stabbing. And you're just like, whoa. And then, you know, we move into this kind of slightly strained, awkward conversation between her and her husband. And you're like, okay, or her boyfriend. And you're just like, okay, but it still feels fairly serious. and she has that nightmare where she's at a diner with her mom, and she starts eating those pennies, and then she starts vomiting pennies, and you're just like, what is going on? And then of course she wakes up and she's been bleeding everywhere. And I was like, oh, that's genius. Like in your dream, you interpreted that blood as the taste of metallic, pennies. And it's just a genius little string. But the tone is still very ominous and dark. And then we meet the doctor, and there's this really strong move to absurdism, right? Without giving up the tone. And it's a great contrast to heighten the comedy, right? The characters themselves are very serious, but and they're taking themselves very seriously. But so does this the films like Cinematography and Score. They never betray this idea that this is all very serious. Instead, what they do is not just give you this deadpan humor a la Will Ferrell, but it's everyone taking it seriously, but writing really absurd situations and dialogue. And like you said, it's very blunt. Everything everyone says is blunt force trauma to your face. Like they're not going to hold back. They're going to say exactly what they're thinking and feeling, which is completely contradictory to a serious tone, given the things that they're saying and kind of the absurd situation. Like, yeah, we don't, instead of, being horrified that there's a clone of you out there, we actually just like your clone more. And we're going to adopt her because she's awesome and you're not. And it's just beautiful. And the doctor herself is just so weird. She's strange and hilarious. And it's that twist where she's trying to get clarity on her odds of living. And the doctor's sitting here saying, well, there's a 90% chance that you're going to die. She's like, oh, what about the 2% chance?
98%, yeah.
And she's like, what 2%? You said that if there's a 98% chance I'm going to die. Oh, that's margin of error. You're absolutely going to die. There's 0% chance you're going to live. Yeah, but 90%, well, margin of error. But this is like hitting a curveball, which is a notoriously difficult pitch to hit for a baseball batter. And she belabors this analogy and ends it with saying, but ultimately, you do not even have a bat. Therefore, you cannot hit this pitch.
But we're never told what the illness is.
Never. And that's the extra layer of absurdism, is that everything in this world is incredibly vague, even as the characters are specifically attacking each other. Everything else is vague, right? His job, what does he do? We have no idea. We know he's a boss of something, and that his employee, gets an award that's ultimately meaningless, but it helps morale, right? We don't know anything about his job. We don't know anything about the disease itself. It's something to do with your stomach, and it's very rare, but it's absolutely going to kill you. We don't know what it is, but we absolutely know this: you will die from it. The cloning process is incredibly vague, let alone the cost of it. They tell you nothing. They keep everything completely abstract and vague while maintaining this absolute certainty about all of it. And that contrast is, there's a lot of humor buried in there. Even the accents are all over the place. Like, we have a lot of British people, but we have a lot of American accents too. I think they give it this perfect pitch with the little girls. We run into these two little twins who have British accents. And you come to find out one of them died and was kidnapped and killed, and the parents just replaced her. They just came back with another, and the little girl has no idea. But then we meet the mom. She has this American accent. They're just being as ridiculous as humanly possible. And that's kind of the tone in a nutshell, right? Where everyone is monotone. There's as little inflection as possible in delivering your performance. The performance itself is flat, not just, the vocal aspect, but also, the delivery and the physicality. They keep it as flat as possible. They're doing their dance routine, and it's the most emotionless dance you've ever seen. They're just going through the motions. Everyone just kind of goes through the motions, which I think is speaking to that, the heart of maybe the film itself, where you're describing like it's greener on the other side. And that's because people aren't really owning their life. and no one's really owning their existence. Everything's flat. Everything's going through the motions. But I also love that they kind of call it out briefly in this video that she's watching. She finds out from the doctor, you can get a replacement, and that'll prevent. And I love that whole scenario. Like, well, the next thing you should do is to decide on your funeral. Like, you feel healthy, you just worked out, but you need to plan your funeral now. For instance, I want to be buried to create a feeling of obligation for my family to visit me after I die.
It's all of these things, yeah.
And and she goes home and she watches this replacement video, and she just kind of jumps around. She skips through this really weird and wacky, silly, corporate video about the cloning process. And he says right there in the video, there was a time when cloning was viewed as this absurd science fiction cut, and she moves on. And they're calling what we're watching now an absurd science fiction movie. And everything about it is absurd and silly and ridiculous. And I love that they just kind of put that right there. And of course, at the end of the video, he lets you know that he himself is a replacement, and he gets his kids, and his kids kind of scoot away from him, and the wife flinches at the end when he tries to kiss her. And it's
so great.
Telling you on its face what it is without like making you understand it. Like, you feel it and you start laughing without being told to laugh necessarily. And I love that aspect of it. And the symbolism for me, like we were kind of dancing around it. I don't know. I think you can kind of pick your adventure here, right? Is it a conversation or maybe a satire about abortion, right? It's a 10-month period before she finds out she's going to live. It's basically the time of, conception to birth. And so at a certain point after, it's confirmed that she's going to be okay, she's now forced to live with this thing. Her decision to go forward and have this clone of herself, right? And ultimately this thing takes over her life. And so you could make an argument that this is a conversation about abortion and right to life or something. Or you could also look at it in terms of, I don't know, maybe hypergamy, the sense that everyone is trying to improve their life with a better person, because you have the boyfriend, right, who's deciding, I don't like you, I like this other version that's exactly like you, except better. And everyone's trying to upgrade their life in these little weird ways. Maybe science and medicine is under the microscope in some degrees or another. Even death is being analyzed, right? The doctor just talking about the way you decide to die and have your family handle your death could be satirical and just saying what the impact you're implying that you want to have on your family by the way you want to be handled posthumously. There's a way to analyze that. It's harpooning everything and at the same time nothing. It's very much, I feel like, you decide, you choose.
What did you call it? What is it? You
What?
called it a thing where you were
Hypergamy?
everyone trying to improve their life incrementally.
Yeah, I mean, generally, whenever you talk about hypergraphy, it's used in the standpoint of class, like trying to move above your class or above your caste. And so it's the idea of you're trying to get into the next stratosphere. And so technically, on a technical level, this movie isn't that, but I'm just trying to get across the idea of grabbing onto an improvement in your own life. Yeah.
Okay. I never heard that term. So thanks for educating me there. That's what I got from it.
Yeah.
The abortion idea is actually very interesting. Now that you bring it up, I never once even thought of that. So that's really interesting. The whole feeling that I had was more of that, which was you always have this version of you that's better in your head, and it eventually ends up killing you, right? Because you spend your whole life trying to reach that or get that extra little, inch or whatever, be that for other people, right? I want to be this for him. I want to be this for her or whatever. And eventually ends up killing you. And even at the end, the funniest part of the whole movie, and there was a dude in the theater who laughed out loud when this happened, when she drinks the water. She's like, oh, I've brought some water so that we do not get dehydrated, and let us drink now. And she like drinks. She's like, let's drink more just to be safe. And then she drinks a huge gulp, and he like laughed out loud. And I was like, yeah, I kind of agree, but I mean, I guarantee you Coke doesn't help you live longer, but we drink it. You know what I mean? Like, in fact, it probably shortens your lifespan with every can, right? Or cigarettes or whatever. The things we do kill us, but we do them willingly. And so, I sit there and I'm watching that and I'm like, why doesn't she ask questions? Why doesn't she think to herself, I'm about to duel to the death with this bitch. She probably put something in this water that she just brought and is asking me to drink more of. Or this doctor has just told me I'm going to die, but hasn't told me what of. Like, should I ask that question? But like, and we constantly aren't asking, specific, questions in our lives too, which we probably could. But yeah. And then at the very end, her version of herself, her clone, getting the life that she actually wanted. So her becoming this has actually made her absolutely miserable and hate her life. So that's kind of what I got from it.
Yeah.
But I do like the idea of the abortion aspect too.
You can slice it so many ways.
Yeah.
And that finale is so good to me because they set you up for the real finale, but your expectation being this big violent ending. We spent 45 minutes, an hour of her training, getting ready to fight to the death, preparing her with these visual violent images, which was brilliant. Such a good touch that, her training not only involves physicality and improving herself and getting ready and learning all the things, but also adjusting to the idea that you have to kill someone. And we're going to do it by let's start by showing you violent images. And he makes her watch that movie. You always kill the ones you love. There's a lot you can tease out of that. And it's just this really bad movie. Barbara, you're my wife. And
Barbara
chops his arm off with the garbage disposal. And they set up that ending by she struggles to recognize the poison. And he's like, yeah, I saw you struggling with this one. This is poison. And, it's just a woman with, foam coming out of her mouth. And she like, oh yeah. And he's like, look, poison is slow to act and not visually exciting, but it is effective or whatever. And they tie that in with the guns aspect later, where he's like, if you see a gun, get a gun. And she's like, oh yeah, I guess I just view guns as being boring. He's like, guns are boring and not visually exciting, but when it comes to life or death, it's okay to be boring. When it comes to life or death, it's okay to be boring. It's okay to poison someone because really the only point was to win.
Right.
And for the clone, what does she care? She has absolutely not spent the last year training, getting ready to kill this girl. Instead, she's now seeing, oh my God, my original has been prepping and she's going to whoop my butt. But you know what I can do? I can trick her and poison her. And I love that she hobbles across the field, and it's such a laborious act.
God.
And you're just waiting. And she gets there, and your instinct is, oh my God, did they actually fight it out in the woods? And maybe did Sarah actually win? Because she gets there, and you immediately know, oh no, she didn't, because the first thing out of her mouth is, sorry, I was late. I had car problem. What problem did you have? I mistook the thing that turned left or right, for the pedal that made you stop or go. It happens to us all, that kind of thing. It was just like, oh, you're the idiot. Got it.
Yeah.
And of course we see her struggling and cars are honking at her and she begins to break down. And we see that she's completely wrecked her car because she doesn't know how to drive, and she's driving the wrong way in this roundabout. And it's so good. It's so weird. I ended up loving it. And the thing that surprised me is I watched it twice, and it landed the exact same way for me the second time.
Cool.
All the jokes still land. I still got sucked into the serious tone at the beginning. And that doctor's visit still is hilarious. It still kind of twists the screw a little bit, and you're like, wait, what's going on here? And finally, beautiful. I think it's just a really smart and well done film. And I should have known if I had finally watched The Art of Self-Defense, which I haven't seen. I've heard it's good. I might finally go back and watch it. It's got Jesse Eisenberg. And I might finally go check that out and see what it's about. But I agree. I think Aaron Paul struggled a little bit with flattening his performance. Like there was just a few times whenever he kind of let the cat out of the bag. But he was still fantastic. Karen Gillan is just nails. I think she is so incredibly talented. And I hope she continues taking like these risks and gambling. My bitterness about the Marvel universe is that it stole a lot of really incredible actors to tell really great stories. I enjoy it. Look, I love Marvel. I know kitschy in its own way, but I love it. I think they're really well done films and enjoyable. But at the same time, I still wish that they had found just slightly worse actors so that all of my favorite actors would be going and making art house films.
Yeah. Understood.
Like this.
Understood.
Yeah. Yeah. What are you going to recommend this week, man?
Shit. I don't have a reco. I'm sorry. No, hold on. You go first.
Okay.
You go first.
Then I was afraid that you were going to beat me to the punch. And so I'm really glad. I'm going to recommend another film, not necessarily about cloning, but about self-improvement and genetic variability. And I would say it's the more serious version of Duel, which is a throwback. And I think this is going to be one of those 50-50 situations. Half our viewers are like, oh yeah, that's a good throwback. And then the other half are going to be like, what did you just say? It's a movie called Gattaca. It stars,
oh my gosh.
It stars Ethan Hawke and I think Jude Law, actually. And it's about the future. It's about genetic engineering of babies and improving them to the best of their ability. And then what happens if you can't afford that? What does the lives of children look like who can't afford to be genetically superior to themselves? And so it's a really philosophical and highly poignant, I think, discussion that is highly relevant in light of everything that's going on today with CRISPR and gene editing. So Gattaca, go check that out. Find it. I think you'll appreciate the thoughtful analysis.
Awesome. I don't have a recommend.
Nothing.
Damn it. I don't have anything that I've seen that I would want to recommend.
Fair enough. Any podcasts or music tunes, anything?
Oh, well, no, I already recommended, or I mentioned that song last week, right?
Yeah, it's in the notes too.
Yeah, that's in the notes. I know you asked me for it. Shit, I'm really sorry.
Nothing. Okay. Well,
I had the first one, and then I didn't think about the next one.
Well, if you want to find out what Todd's is, you're going to have to go to the show notes, which you can do at thepestlepodcast.com/duel. And stay tuned for next week. We are going to, I believe, is this right? Is this what we're doing?
Yes, absolutely.
Nice. Stay tuned because as foretold, we're going to be diving into the Marvel MCU, and we're going to take a look at the new film, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. I think that's what it's called. I didn't actually double check the title, but it's the new Doctor Strange movie. And if you're enjoying the show, don't forget, subscribe, review us on iTunes, leave us a note. If you want us to talk about a thing, we'll talk about that thing and do a mediocre job of it because, kind
of what we do.
Yeah. That other podcast that's really good at this, that's the better podcast. The grass is always greener, Todd.
I do have one. I do have my reco.
What do you got?
I can either tell you later or can tell you now.
Yeah, go for it.
Later.
Go for it.
Later. I'll tell you later.
Okay.
That's fine. Tell you later. So our quote of the day that we'll leave you with is from Talking Heads. And I just heard this song the other day, and I love this song so hard. And you may ask yourself, how do I work this? And you may ask yourself, where is that large automobile? And you may tell yourself, this is not my beautiful house. And you may tell yourself, this is not my beautiful wife. So good. I wake up every single day and I'm like, how the heck? Like, what is, if you like, there are people that can plan for stuff like this, but most of us, we go day to day, we try to do the best we can each day. And then 10 years from now, we're like, how did we get here? One step at a time, got us here, one decision at a time. It's such a great song.
Yeah, I loved it. I thought it would be funny just to have something less serious for the quote, and that's such an oddball song. They're such an oddball band.
It's perfect
out of an oddball era, like the 80s were so weird, and yeah, tonally I think it fits really well, and I'll link that in the show notes. So if you haven't heard the song, you should listen to that song. It's funny, and it's not a typical song. He's sing talking, and it's beautiful. But yeah,
he sings the chorus, but the verses are.
And you may ask yourself, so
good. Lyrics are amazing in that track.
So good.
Oh man. Anyway, yes, thank you so much for suggesting this. It was definitely a journey to go see it, but it was really worth it. And I haven't seen a film like this in a long time, and I absolutely enjoyed it, and can't wait for it to stream so that I can see it again.
Nice.
For a second time. If you like this, please review us on iTunes. Like Wes said, share us with your friends, all that good stuff. It makes all the difference in the world. Until next week, I'm Todd.
I'm Wes.
Go watch the movie.